Well, are we talking about all the other teams around the league that are talking to somebody that's not in camp? Because every team's got them. And we're having the same kind of talks we've been having. Not worried about a target date, not worried about his shape. Glad he's not out here risking some injury.
All right, Stephen A., any issues with Jerry's latest comments on CeeDee?
I think it's quite pathetic, to be quite honest with you. I mean, when you look at his situation, first of all, Jerry is the first to tell us that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, particularly for him at this stage in his life. These are his words, not ours, number one. Number two, we know what CeeDee Lamb is worth. He's a top 3 receiver in the National Football League. You may have questions about your quarterback. You may have had questions in the past about your running back. You may have had questions about a few things. You don't have any questions about him. Then you got to take into account what you have available in the event that you don't have him. You got Brandon Cooks and a bunch of dudes named Jalen. Okay, about 3 dudes named Jalen on the squad. I don't even remember their last name. Tolbert is one of them. Okay, I forgot the others. All right. The bottom line is this: when you look at that, okay, and then you take into account CeeDee Lamb, his agent is the same agent as A.J. Brown. Last time I checked, A.J. Brown just got about $32 million per. And so if you're CeeDee Lamb, what do you think you're worth? You got to look at it from that standpoint. The fact that this is a challenge that Jerry Jones is doing is you're going to end up giving the money. So why procrastinate? Why wait? Why not have his brother in camp? It doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. And don't tell me, well, you know what? Hey, he's going to be safe, because guess what? If you don't want him to play till the regular season, you still could sign him and tell him just work out in the gym, don't play till the regular season. There's ways to work around it. Jerry is just being unnecessarily rigid, and I think those are the kind of things that compromise morale when you least expect it. And I think that's definitely the potential with the Dallas Cowboys.
Shay?
We know how Jerry is. Jerry tries to draw a line in the sand. You remember in '93, Stephen A., when he drew the line in the sand against Emmett, and they went 0-2, and then he gave Emmett his money? For Jerry to say, well, I'm glad he's not out here risking it, well, why even have training camp? Everybody's out there risking it. That's what you do. Football is an inherently dangerous game. Guys get hurt. Big guys running the bigger guys at a high rate of speed. So for Jerry to try to downplay, oh, we don't need CeeDee out here risking it, really? And you expect people to believe that? No, that's not the case. You think that everybody wants to play for the Cowboys. You think everybody's going to give you a hometown discount. But guys are seeing hometown discount. I'm not giving you no hometown discount. Because guess what? We saw what you did to Dez Bryant. We saw what you did to Ezekiel Elliott. We saw what you did to some of the other guys that have gotten big contracts. So the moment there's a little slippage, you want to move in another direction. So I'm going to get all the money I can. You said players play. Management, they do management things. So I'm going to let you and your son worry about the cap. I don't give a damn about your cap. The only cap I care about is the cap that's on my head, that's going to have dollar signs, because I'm about to get a bunch of it out of you, Jerry Jones. If I'm CeeDee Lamb, I'm towing the line. I'm not giving you no discount. I want a boatload of money up front. You're not going to backload it and push it until later years, kick the can down the road. I want my money. And I see what Justin Jefferson got, and I'm not trying to okay, no. Normally what happens, and you could attest to this, when the receivers are comparable, and you might say Justin Jefferson had the best 3 years of any receiver in NFL history, but CeeDee Lamb doesn't get to have to take a back seat. Led the league in catches. He was tied for touchdowns. I think he was second in yards behind Tyreek. I want a boatload. If Justin Jefferson got $35 million, I want $35 million, $1.
So I think both of these situations have been mismanaged by the organizations, CeeDee and Jamar Chase. Both teams need that receiver as much as they need their quarterbacks to have a realistic chance. Shannon, I want to put you on the spot here, okay? So the Cowboys obviously haven't played a game in, 6 months or something like that. They play in 20 days, okay? 20 days.
Yes.
Shannon, you are one of the best tight ends in the history of the game, athletic dude, right? So I said this, I think, last week. CeeDee Lamb, 181 targets last year, 135 catches. So volume of use and volume of production. They play in 20 days. They're going to have a preseason game. They're going to cut some dudes. Next week's a little bit lighter. Your perspective, how much time, days, weeks, did you truly need, to be at your very best when it comes to football, not just weight training, but football?
I needed to play. I needed to play games, Dan, because there's nothing like guys pulling on you, banging on you, you trying to get open and get your timing and get your breathing correct. Also, what you run into is because they try to overload you, and then you have to start worrying about soft tissue injuries. You start worrying about calves. You start worrying about hamstrings and groins because you're going extra, because you're not. He's not practicing with shoulder pads. He's not practicing with a helmet. He has somebody throwing him a football and he's catching it from a jugs machine, or he has someone throwing him the ball. So I needed to get my rhythm. I needed to get my timing and my breathing down. And so I needed training camp. Maybe these guys are so much better than I was and they don't need training camp. But I needed it, Dan.
Exactly. And we're talking about a guy with 181 targets. And Shannon, the point that you're making is the one exactly that I was hoping was like, dude, when you're getting off the line of scrimmage and you got defenders making contact with you and you try to stabilize your body, they play in 20 days.
Emmitt Smith, I remember obviously he was slow to give the reins to Dak Prescott, ultimately giving Dak Prescott his money, but he certainly had to wait a while for it. Now we've got a situation with CeeDee Lamb. We know what happened with Ezekiel Elliott and how he had to hold out until things ultimately transpired. In the end, we don't know why, but that seems to be the case with Jerry Jones. And to me, I would say this to you. If I'm hesitant about anybody, it would be Dak Prescott. If I want to, and I understand contractually he holds the bag because you can't trade him. He's got the no trade clause and all of this other stuff. You can't franchise tag him. I get that part. But still in all, he's the question mark. There's no question mark about CeeDee Lamb. Nobody has a question mark. When we talk about CeeDee Lamb, we say Justin Jefferson, we say Tyreek Hill, we say CeeDee Lamb. Period. And so when you look at it from that standpoint and you juxtapose that to Dak Prescott and what kind of money he's going to command, the hesitancy should be, most of all, with giving Dak $60 million per. It shouldn't be with giving CeeDee Lamb a top 2 or top 3 salary amongst wide receivers in the National Football League.
The problem that Jerry has, guys, is that he kicked all these cans down the road. So now you get Dak Prescott wants money. You get CeeDee Lamb wants money. But there's a guy that's lurking in the shadows that wants to top that Nick Bosa's $34 million. And he's number 11. And he's on the other side of the football. So what you've done is that you let the housing market, all these houses, Stephen A., and I don't know if you, 2008, when everybody was getting these 20,000 square foot homes and interest only, but there was a balloon payment that was going to come due in about a year to 2 years. And if you haven't sold that house, you lost your butt. And what happened, these balloon payments with Dak Prescott, with CeeDee Lamb, with Micah Parsons are all coming due. Now, what's Jerry going to do? Is he going to allow this you cannot lose none of these guys. Because CeeDee Lamb says, okay, even though I'm not sure of what Dak's status is going to be next year, it's a very similar situation to Devontae Adams. I had him on my podcast, Stephen A., and he said, I went to the Packers. He says, I don't really know the situation with Aaron Rodgers, but I'm willing to take this, not knowing what his future is going to be here. They bought. He became a free agent. Then they tried to come back. At that point in time, he said, you done let me swim across shark-infested waters and made it to the other side? Nah, I'm good. I'm going to take a little less money to go on over here. And so that's not what you want to happen. Because I don't know if the guy that they have that's behind that is the answer. But I know you're not going to win very many games without CeeDee Lamb.
I unfortunately bought a house in like 2005, Shannon, before 2008. So I certainly was one of those people who lost their butt in that situation. Here's the problem with Dallas.
Good thing you got an
800
times raise or whatever that was.
And by the way, don't believe.
What was your raise?
By the way,
800 times?
Molly, don't buy into that. That cheapskate, there's no way in hell he lost money. You can bet the house on that. I don't give a damn if he saved money 100%. On saving on coffee. He did not lose money. Not Dan Orlovsky. He ain't losing no money. I promise you that. He ain't losing money.
Especially surviving in that rough town that you're in, Dan. I know it's a struggle. I'll just leave it at that. but it's, well, yeah, I am.
All right.
I am.
All right.
On this one, I am. You know, it's hard out
His
here.
suits have looked a little better too. Haven't you noticed? Have you noticed? He
That
looks
is
like
a
he
nice
spent a
suit.
little bit more money on the suits. A little bit more money.
Yeah.
Look.
It's good to be Dan Orlovsky, the birthday boy. Are we
Molly,
done?
You do not want to be me the last 48 hours. Trust me.